What's good, everyone? My name is Davis, and today I'll be going through my Premier League predictions for Game Week 11. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Our first game takes place on Friday, where we have Southampton versus Aston Villa. Aston Villa are in really bad form. They've lost four straight games, haven't looked very good overall. Next game, they have no Ezri Konsa at center back as well. Tyrone Mings didn't play last week. I don't know if he's coming back this week either. So they have some defensive issues going on there. Um, Also, Dean Smith, I know there's been some questions about him being in charge there. So who knows how much further he'll keep his job for, especially with how bad this team has looked recently. Um, Other than that, Southampton, they've looked pretty good so far this season. I believe they're on 10 or 11 points. James Ward-Prowse is coming back. He's their best playmaker going forward. So he's a huge addition for them. Uh, and also in the back, they have Kyle Walker-Peters and Livramento back there, who are just some of the best fullbacks in the league in the same team. So they've got a very good defensive record. Of their last 10 games against Aston Villa, Aston Villa has only won once. So I think that Southampton will come into this game pretty dominantly and win this game 1-0. For our first game of Saturday, we have probably one of the biggest games of the year. We have Manchester United versus Manchester City. Now, Manchester United have been pretty strange the last couple of games. Last game in the Premier League, they played a five in the back. Although they did look great against Spurs, who are Spurs. I'm expecting big things out of them this game just because City are in pretty poor form. Maguire has been a liability for them, but Ronaldo's just been absolutely carrying this team. I think Ronaldo, with his recent form, can definitely at least bag one or two goals. He's definitely a good player to have in your team right now. Although United have a pretty tough schedule coming up, he seems to be the most reliable scorer for them. I'm just wondering if United will use a more attacking formation this game, because it seems like whenever they play a good team now, they might rely on that five in the back like they did last game against Spurs. So we'll see what they do, because last game, no Rashford or Greenwood. So we'll see if they even play. For City, on the other hand, they've lost two out of their last three games in all competitions. So they're in really poor form. I'm really expecting to see Mahrez or Bernardo Silva starting over Jack Grealish. I feel like Jack Grealish has been probably the worst purchase this year of any player. He's been really poor. So I'm kind of expecting Pep to bench him, but we'll see when it comes to game time. I'm still expecting Gabriel Jesus to do something big. I brought him in last week and he did nothing. So hopefully he does something. Overall, though, I have this game going down as a draw. I'm expecting a 2-2 result. For our third game this week, we have Brentford versus Norwich City. I think this is actually going to be a fairly interesting game. You have Brentford, who's on three straight losses, struggling to keep clean sheets recently. They lost David Raya, their number one goalkeeper. Their center backs are looking kind of injury prone. So I think they might concede more than one goal this game. Norwich, on the other hand, haven't won a game yet this season. They have two draws, two straight losses. They've only have three goals all season. So I think this is definitely a season deciding game for this game. So I think this is a must win situation for them, where they're just willing to throw a bunch of players forward and just see if it'll work. At this point, might as well try anything. So I think Norwich will actually come through with a victory in this. I had them winning this 2-1. For our next match, we have Chelsea versus Burnley. Chelsea are currently in first place. I believe they're 3 or 4 points clear of Liverpool, who are in second. They've looked great over the last couple of games. They've currently on a 4-game win streak in the Premier League. Reece James has looked like the best defender this season, scored 2 goals last game. So Reece James is definitely a good player to bring into your fantasy team. I brought him in before that little price jump that they had him do. So I would still bring him in, though. He's a great value player. Any Chelsea defenders, great value just because of how many clean sheets they keep. Burnley, on the other hand, I think they could potentially get a goal out of this game just because of how well Maxwell Cornet's been playing. He, I believe, has 4 goals this season after only playing in 4 or 5 games. So he's been in brilliant form this season. I think if they do get something, it would be through Maxwell Cornet. But I don't think they're going to get anything out of this game, despite only have one loss in the last 5 games. I have Chelsea actually win this game 3-0. For our fifth game this week, we have Crystal Palace versus Wolves. This is actually my second most anticipated game of the week, not just because I'm a Palace fan, just because both teams are in red hot form right now. Both teams are undefeated through the last 5 games. And overall, this should be a great game offensively and defensively. Palace have looked great defensively, just kept a clean sheet against Manchester City. That's, I think, definitely thanks to how well Tyreek Mitchell played. If you don't have him, I think this is definitely a good budget player. He's only 4.5 million. He's definitely a good buy to have right now. Another player is Michael Olise. I think he's also a great player to buy. Just a little quick update on Crystal Palace, though. They've only played one team in the bottom 7, so they have a very easy schedule coming up. So I would definitely stock up on Palace players before the price starts rising, especially Ebere Eze. He's supposed to come back as well. So I think Palace could definitely have this quick run of form where they're just on fire, end up maybe top 8 through the next couple of games. Wolves, on the other hand, are also in really good form. I think Jimenez or Huang Hee-chan, I think those two players, you need to have at least one of them in your team. Personally, I have Jimenez just because I feel like he's the more reliable goal option of the two. But I think one of those two is definitely a good option to have in your team because they're both great goal scorers and definitely a threat to every single team they play against. This should be a great game, though. But because I'm a Palace fan, I didn't back them last week, but I will back them this week with a 3-1 victory. Next match, we have Brighton versus Newcastle. This is one of those games I'm not really looking forward to just because both teams aren't in very good form. Brighton haven't won a game in the last 6, and Newcastle haven't won a single game this season yet. So I'm not expecting too much out of this game. Brighton looked really resilient last week, though, against Liverpool, forcing a 2-2 draw. Looked great in that second half. Newcastle, on the other hand, though, I don't know. There's not much to talk about them. They haven't beaten Brighton since 2017, the championship. I think Callum Wilson might nick a goal in this game, get one back for them, but I think Brighton will come out dominant, win this game 2-1. Going into our Sunday games, the first game we have is Arsenal versus Watford, two teams that are actually pretty close to each other geographically. So I think Arsenal is going to come out this game pretty hot. They're in really good form and haven't lost since that 5-0 loss against Manchester City. So I think they'll come through this game and look pretty good. Aaron Ramsdale was fantastic last game, looking like a top 3 keeper in the league and definitely an FPL buy that you might want to consider, especially if you have David Raya in your team who's out for 4 months. So I think Ramsdale is definitely a safe option to bring in for you. Another Arsenal option that I think is pretty good is Emile Smith-Rowe. He has, I believe, 4 or 5 goal contributions through the last 5 games. So he's another option that I think a lot of people are considering bringing him back in. I'd stay away from buying Nuno Tavares because I think it was confirmed that Tierney is coming back for either this week or next week. So he'll be back for one of these 2 weeks. So I would stay away from Nuno Tavares for now. Watford, on the other hand, are in very strange form. They beat Everton 5-2. They lose to Southampton 1-0. They lose to Liverpool 5-0. So I don't know too much what to expect out of them. I know Emmanuel Dennis is back, so that poses them as a little more of a goal threat this game. So I think they will score, but I don't think this game's going to be pretty for them at all. I have Arsenal win this game 4-1. Our next game is Everton versus Tottenham. This is another game that I'm looking forward to because Tottenham just hired Conte. So I think this is warranting that we'll see Kane's form go back to what it was last season. He's just been in what seems to be the wrong system so far this season. So just a new manager, I think, might fix that, play him in a different position slightly from what he was doing. I think they're using him as more of a target man with Nuno. So maybe just some other manager's tactics will just reform him to what he was last season, which I really hope to see that. Everton, though, very poor form, 3 straight losses to all the teams named W. They lost to Watford, West Ham, and Wolves. So a little funny coincidence there. But they're in terrible form, and I've even heard rumors about Rafa Benitez getting sacked and potentially going back to Newcastle. So we'll see what happens there. It's not looking pretty for them, though. So I think Conte will come into Spurs and actually get a victory in this and win this game 2-0. Our penultimate game of this week is Leeds United versus Leicester City. Leeds United, although they did get a win last week, they haven't looked pretty good all season at all. Their only wins this year are against Norwich City and Watford. So I think that's definitely something to consider when bringing in any of their defenders or midfielders. Personally, the only player that I would consider having from their team would be Rafinha, just because over the next 9 games, they play a lot of teams that are considered top 10 teams in the league. So I would definitely stay away from any Leeds player besides him. Leicester, though, although they have had a pretty slow start, I think they'll start to pick things up now. A tough start to them so far this season, but with this game, I think they'll get back on the track. I think Vardy will fire this game twice. I think he's going to score both goals in this game that I have for them. So overall, I think Leicester will come through pretty dominant and win this game 2-1. For our last game this week, we have West Ham versus Liverpool. West Ham is now turning into must-watch TV. They are looking like a very exciting team, scoring a lot of goals every single game. They're definitely an exciting team, currently sitting fourth in the table. Declan Rice has looked fantastic, scoring last game. I know there's a stigma that he only passes backwards and sideways, but he was just delivering the ball everywhere last game. So I'm definitely expecting big things from him coming to this game, especially against Liverpool, who doesn't have the greatest of midfields. So we'll see what happens there. The West Ham also proved that they can win games without their lead goal scorer actually scoring goals. Mikel Antonio came out that last game with 0 goal contributions, and they still won 4-1. So I think that just proved that they are a very well-balanced team. Liverpool, though, haven't lost this season. I don't know who they'd lose to. Maybe Chelsea, maybe City, probably just those 2 teams. They were pretty poor in the second half of the last game against Brighton, but I think things will change. Sadio Mane has been in pretty good form the last couple of games, so I think his form's starting to catch up to him. I think Sadio Mane's price is going to start going up just because he seemed to produce a lot more goals. So I think he's definitely a player to potentially bring in, especially if you are looking to replace Son or someone else like that along that price line. Overall, though, should be a great game. Definitely going to watch it. I have Liverpool win this game, though, 3-2. Those are my Premier League predictions for Game Week 11. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Comment down below any players that you would suggest buying. And as always, see you guys next time.